So I made the decision to say, that there is a culture of people, especially our families here in Ghana, who will not accept me for who I am now, who will not champion me for who I am now, who won't care about me anymore for who I am now. Yeah. But if it's my personal story and I'm able to heal myself and my environment and the people who live within my realm are happy, isn't that more worth it? Isn't that more worth it?
Okay, great. But before we get started, while Prince sets up the space, I'll speak a little bit about my friend, mentor, homegirl. She's also right there in the orange dress if you want to get like a live view of her. Her story includes me, yes. This was us having a grand old time in Nana's garden. I promise you we were actually laughing. This wasn't staged for pictures. How Nana found wellness. Is that not you? Is that you? It's not? You look like a model, okay. Okay, so Nana has gone from trial work to Bliss Yoga Accra. So this is, oh, look at mommy. Oh my God. Look at all these people, Diana. So this is Bliss Yoga. We moved from Movenpick end of last year to our new space in Osu. So we're going to share Nana's journey. Nana's regularly called upon to speak and profiled on her wellness journey. Highlights have been TEDx Accra. She's a TEDx speaker. Woman That Soar Awardee, hosted by Carmen. She met Carmen, y'all. Tara Banks. And there was a feature in O Magazine. Amazing. And to list a few, sorry, I skipped over Nana's story. There should be like a slide, sorry. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about Nana's story. Okay, she went from being a trial lawyer to, Nana's done everything. For a while I was like, I'm not sure how old she is. She could be anywhere from 17 to 70. It could be anything. She doesn't age either. So Nana's been everything from an art teacher to a prosecutor in New York City. If you watch Law & Order SVU, that would be her prosecuting folks, putting them behind bars. So, sorry. Sorry. But not no more. Listen, she went from trial work to Wall Street, doing Wall Street stuff, to owning the most amazing space here in Accra. Your work, Nana, has been such an important part of my journey. I'm not going to say anymore because I think I'm going to cry. But your work in Ghana has just been such an important part of my journey. I got my 200-hour certification with Nana and have just maintained a beautiful friendship and amazing ship with Nana. So you're going to come up and sit on this cute little stool, or would you prefer a chair? Okay. We're going to have a cute little chat. Put this away. Hey, Nana.
Hi.
This is, okay, my knees hurt. Okay.
We'll get adjusted.
I've been standing for a while, and I sat, and I'm like, I don't know how to sit anymore. So Nana is part of a whole movement in Accra towards wellness and self-care and yoga and everything. So we're going to talk a little bit about your journey, how you've, because you've lived through all these pieces of moving back to Ghana and starting a yoga space. And I want to know, so tell us a little bit more about your journey. I hope I did your journey a little justice, but it's better from you. So,
thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is such a full circle for me that I get to be here to support you and to see the journey that you're on in wellness and vocalizing it. My personal journey is just that. I'm from Ghana originally and lived in the U.S. for most of my life. My parents are retired diplomats who were World Bank and UN. I grew up in Southern Africa and Zambia and moved back to the U.S. when I was about 12 years old. So I've pretty much been a citizen of many different places. I came from a family of immigrants who went to Legon and met at Legon and ended up in Cambridge and the Berkeley University and did well and knew that their daughters would do well. I'm a twin and have an older sister, and that was our privilege, right? And with that, you become a career person, and so we did everything that they decided we should do. And so that's from being a professional, a lawyer, to all that. And my career ended up as that. I always wanted to be an advocate for people, and so I eventually did decide to become a lawyer. I worked for the Children's Defense Fund in Washington, D.C. for many years before eventually becoming a full-time lawyer. I wanted to be a defense lawyer. And I worked for the late Johnny Cochran as a fellow before he died, and I ended up being...
Wait, I didn't know. I knew you were a lawyer, but I didn't know you were a Johnny Cochran lawyer. That's like a whole nother...
Trial work, and I prosecuted about 2,000 cases in my short life as a DA for about 3 years. I was banished to the night shift because I was very vocal that most of my defendants were innocent. And so they put me in a place called the complaint room, which I had to work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for 2 years because they wouldn't allow me to go to trial because I was dismissing most of my cases. And that's where I became a wellness challenge because I became insomniac. I was underweight, I was torn, and I worked hundreds of hours in that environment, and at night is when people do bad things, and so I was the intake officer for all the arraignments. I was a night court officer. I decided that the imbalance was too strong, and so at a certain point in your life as on the wellness journey, there's an imbalance, so I crashed really, really hard, and I decided that New York City was beautiful, but I needed to move into something else. So I took a very easy job as a highly paid Wall Street general counsel in a big bank, and they gave me like 3 Blackberries, and I was like online at 3 a.m. I had travel, I had all these great things, but I was again very, very unwell. And so this is where the opportunity came, where I had a child, and my husband and I, when she was 1 year old, her name is Philomena, and Nana's mother's name is Philomena, and we decided to leave New York City and move to Ghana. And so we picked up and left and got here. And I was a lawyer in Ghana, but I felt that it wasn't the role for me as a young woman. It didn't fit my shoes, but everybody wanted to know why I was here and what I did as a yoga teacher. And so eventually I decided to drop all of that. But the challenge with dropping is you drop your story, because we are basically, a lot of us have a lot of emotional and career ego, especially as African women or women of immigrants or men of children of immigrants or just people in general who have high performing attitudes. And so I had to basically leave that story or title, as somebody said in the room, and become somebody else. So I opened a yoga studio and decided that that's where my healing was as a professional, and I was able to allow for that to become part of the story in Accra. So I'm very proud that yoga has bloomed here. Many people in this room I've worked with personally and trained, and I feel honored that we're able to have the conversation now about how do you live well. So that's my story.
Beautiful. I feel like I'm learning so much about you in just this moment. Even though we talk a lot, I just feel like I think it's very interesting. You talk about when you had your daughter and how that, prompted a shift within you when you were like, I can't do this Wall Street cubicle. And then you moved to Ghana, but still felt a need to validate your story. Like you still felt a need to say, I'm actually a lawyer, but we still feel the need to, even when the shift is happening, and clearly has happened, we still feel the need to sort of validate our space. And I'm asking for the shift because when I made this shift and this decision to do wellness, do my platform full time, right? As I'm making that decision, when it happened, when that internal shift happened, you were like one of the first people I called, and I was like, I can't do anything else but this. And if what felt weird was having to validate it. It felt like I needed to validate it. Like maybe I'm just going through something, I'll go back to work. Or maybe I'm just depressed. Or maybe I just need to talk to my therapist. But we all know when that when that inner voice is like, now. The time is now. Right now. So I want to say, like, what do you think your sort of inner work was to be able to take the call and say, okay, we're doing it, we're moving to Ghana? Like, what was there like a specific moment that triggered, or like, I want to learn more about sort of like that internal work to be able to say yes now.
I think we're all generally in this room where our physical energy as yogis and people is mostly pitta, which is like fire. It's an energy profile that most of us have 3 of, but one of them is that. So most of the people I meet in Accra are like high thinkers like yourself. And so it's hard to be able to leave the ego. For me, I had a lot of crushing moments. That's why I had to change. Like in my legal career, my victim died before trial, the one that I loved the most. Or in my professional Wall Street career, there was a big flood in Wall Street in New York City that aligned us to not be able to work for 6 months. It was a big storm. There were a lot of crushing individual moments that made me step back and say, I can't go to work, but what am I doing there? You know, and if you go to your cubicle, you go to that big office that has like, 2 secretaries and 4 Blackberries, like, why are you doing? So sometimes it has to be a pause that happens, or maybe it's a crisis. Maybe it's just a personal crisis that makes you happy. So for me, I think that there was a lot of deeper moments that were strong, that pulled me down, that got me on my knees, that forced me to be able to say, I think I need to leave these scenarios. So that was that. And then when you have a child, some of us in the room are mothers, it changes your physiology, it changes your mental self. And so you do shift. I didn't want to keep taking her to the daycare and having to pick her up at 7 p.m. because that was like the late shift. Or that I would take her from the daycare and drop her at the daycare and I could hear her crying from like a block away. Or I'd come to the daycare and she would be so tired. She'd be so tired and there would be nowhere to go because we were in Brooklyn and Berkeley somewhere. And they wouldn't take them to the park because it was dangerous, because it was just not safe to take many little children to the park. So eventually you have to think about your environment. So I felt that Ghana, where my family's from, where my parents are from, where my husband is from, would be a more light place. I could find light there. And my child could find some light and she could be a little bit freer. My child was also very overwhelmed by New York City. And as a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old had many developmental challenges, meaning anger.
She's freaked out.
And things like that. But when we did leave and we did come to a place where she can run around and move around as we do as people, as adults even, she lost that. She's now freer. She's a happy child. So sometimes you have to make a mental sacrifice to say, what does my environment look like? But the shift for me was actually about a lot of deep stuff that was happening. And so my sisters and other people that I may know maybe never were affected by these personal experiences. And so they can continue to live and maintain that. But for me, there was a lot of deep stuff that happened to me and I had to make a shift.
So let's talk a little bit more about your empathy journey, because part of me, when I felt like I was waking up, I felt myself sort of angry at other people around me who I felt were not doing the work. It kind of felt like, well, excuse you. I am woke and thou art not, And I think, growth. Coming to a place of understanding that really a big part of the journey is also being able to practice empathy with our world around us. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about your empathy journey, right? Because coming to Ghana, starting a yoga studio, and people, I'm sure, this was 2013, I believe. Yoga's come a long way in Ghana. And I'm sure people say, you left Wall Street to do what? Is that a thing? Is that even a real job, right? And like being able to practice empathy, even when you feel attacked, So I want to hear a little bit more about your empathy journey.
I think the challenge with empathy is you have to really go into self, and as we had said earlier, to fill out a note, so you have to go into your inner roommate, the person that talks to you the most and says to you, like, everybody thinks I'm this way, everybody agrees I'm this way, I am successful because these people find me to be successful. Coming to Ghana with 2 parents that are retired, very successful diplomatic individuals who actually live here part-time, to find that their daughter, who has gone back to Ghana, who was this person, is now starting again or doing this thing, It was very, very, very
And
difficult.
to interject, I recently found out who your dad was. And it was like, it was like, he's a big deal. And to me, immediately what came to mind was, wow, I wonder how people, I wonder how people reconcile who your parents are with, oh, so like, okay, one said IMF, that makes sense. The other is, okay, yoga teacher. Like when I recently found out who your parents were, I was like, wow, Nana's brave. Nana's really brave. Like you made that leap in spite of what expectations were on you. I just wanted to put that out there. I think you're very brave.
Yes, and that is it's a very lonely place when you make a decision like that because you're not amongst many people.
Yeah.
I really admire Nana how you've evolved in your personal journey and being able to present yourself in this way as a queer woman, as a wife as well. It's very difficult. It's a very lonely place. Where do you stand? When you go to, I always say to myself, if you go to home at night and you go to sleep before you go to bed and you look in the mirror, are you really happy with that person? Because we don't have that much time. We have like the body, we have the age, but it's going to evolve. We're going to expire. So I made the decision to say, that there is a culture of people, especially our families here in Ghana, who will not accept me for who I am now, who will not champion me for who I am now, who won't care about me anymore for who I am now.
Yeah.
But if it's my personal story and I'm able to heal myself and my environment and the people who live within my realm are happy, isn't that more worth it? Isn't that more worth it?
That was one of my operating mindsets, and like I came back to that just like a week ago. I was in Barcelona. Yeah, I do this. I meet strangers and ask them about their true self. This is me. And I was in Barcelona, and I went to a restaurant there, and I was alone. Really great, sort of like veganish, health food, health conscious restaurant, gorgeous space. So I walk in, and they're like, "Are you by yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Okay, so we don't have a separate table for people who dine alone, but they have this big communal table. So you consider this communal table." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, we're trying new things. We're exercising curiosity, and we're opening up our world. So sure, I'll sit at this communal table." And usually I sit down, and there's like a couple sitting across from me, and they're like not interested in me. They're like into themselves. So I sit next to this gentleman, looks like, around my age or so, and it's kind of like this awkward smile of like, hi. And he asked me a question about my earrings. It was like small talk. It started as small talk, and then it ended in, I just, my operating mindset. So it started from, are your I like your earrings or whatever he said, to, no, who are you? It goes there. I go there. And what was a very interesting, it was cathartic for me, because in leading him in this exercise of writing out the operating mindsets, which I really do recommend to do, just sit home and just write it. I thought I was helping him write out his operating mindsets. I realized that one of my operating mindsets that had helped me back then and still was operating now was, if I become my true self, or if I live my true self, so and so would love me. If I do what I really want to do, I would lose the love, support, care, attention, validation from so and so. And I was like, whoa, and that had helped me back so much from even being able to, I work with family to this day, being able to turn to family and say, hey, this kind of like authenticity thing that I'm doing, these master classes, these training sessions, these YouTube videos, I kind of want to do this. I want to do this full time, and I want to do this at a grander scale. And I realized that for a very long time, the reason I never really stood up for what I wanted to do was because I was so afraid of losing people's love and validation. And realized that, and then the same night, making that decision that, okay, me and my dad are going to have that conversation. And I bring it up, and he was like, I feel like you're always struggling with this. Like, what's your problem? Like, why are you? And it was coming from a place of, you always come back to this same point, so why don't you just do it? I was like, oh. I was like, what? How do you feel? It's like, how how do I feel? It's not about how I feel. You're free. And I was sitting there looking at him and I was like, what? Are you like, what do you mean? It's like, no, like you are, like you can just do you. Like I'm not stressed. I'm trying to live my life. I want you to live your life. I want you to find happiness. I want you to find yourself. I want you to find what you want to do. If you love doing this, like continue to do
And I
it.
think what you're saying is that, John, we give our thoughts so much power.
Yes.
Thoughts have so much power over how we operate and how we live as people. I can give an example even in my own family. I have a twin sister who was in the Washington, D.C. area and is a very, very successful development officer. And you know, since I moved back to Accra, I even call her. She doesn't really have time to talk. You know, she's always busy with like the work schedule or getting out, getting in. She doesn't really have time to think about what she wants to do. And even if she wants to make that change, sometimes you have to really let your thoughts be the director of your power. And the way you've made your transformation is about you. It's about what do you need? But sometimes validation is how we live. And sometimes validation, it may not be how we entirely live, but is a lot to do with why we stay and why we go.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Now I'll open it up for questions. Yeah. Alma?
Yes. Thank you for sharing your journey. Even though you left like a very hectic life, you still started something here that I'm assuming is still also demanding, you know, in different ways. And like, to the extent that you're committed to something, if you're continuing to grow it, it will still like demand time, organization, those kind of things. So in terms of like maintaining, you know, wellness, but also being, I mean, you're still a career woman, just like a different career. Like how do you maintain that balance, you know, like paying people, doing the things, while still being, you know, grounded and being able to think about your wellness and your well-being?
We just finished teacher training. My student just finished another teacher training program, and some of our graduates are here. And 8 wonderful souls. And the main mantra that I shared with them is about sanctuary. So I find that home is where you go to find that balance. So for me as a business owner, because what I do is a business too, I own a business, I have to go home more. Hecticness here is even more hectic to live here because you have to deal with weather and elements and people, and it's not as fluid and systematic. So I find that I have a secret sanctuary, which is my home. So I'll go there for like 4 hours if I have to, and then I'll come back out. I generally feel that most of us who are operate in this type of work are generally introverted. I'm a very introverted person, although because of the work I do, I have to get out in front of people a lot. But I do find if I go home, if I find a place that's well there, then I can spring out from there and give enough energy.
If it is to piggyback on what you're saying, I think if it's at all possible, I would say create sanctuary. However you bring sanctuary into your life, create it. Sometimes it's turning on worship music, for instance. If that creates sanctuary, then like create sanctuary in whatever moment you find it. So just like Nana, I also love my home. So it's also a place where I do retreat to. More specifically, my bed. So, so much has been done for so much productivity and like thinking has come from that. So I think whatever creates sanctuary, whatever brings sanctuary to your moment, create that, bring that in, right? Because I told you I hang out with my friends Oprah and them, right, in my car, and that's my sanctuary. Those are moments of sanctuary we can do. So, thank you. Any more questions?
You talked a bit about balancing your work life with your home life. You love your home, you love your family, you love your children, but you love your job, and you wish you had 24 hours to spend on your job. And it's always like you have to sacrifice one for the other. It's a constant struggle for me. That's one of the things I struggle with the most. Just any tips or anything you have to share about balancing your work with your home life.
I personally find that it's one goal a day. You know, especially in Ghana, especially where we live, it's so difficult to get 15 things done. And many of us, again, most of the people in this room are high-performing individuals, so they want to get, you know, you want to get 10 things done. But if you just associate yourself with one goal, if it's just like getting, you know, the email sent, or maybe, you know, that's enough. You know, it's hard when we're constantly at a higher peak of how we like to operate, how the world expects us to operate. If you just assume one thing, and so that's what I do. I have that one thing, and it could be work-related, it could be family-related. But if you're not thinking that way, you're going to get tired. You're going to get very tired. And I think that's most of us have that struggle.
That is an exercise I actually have done at work with my team. I'll say, of all these important tasks, like a Monday meeting, of all these important tasks, what is the one thing that if you got done, will make your week feel done? You know, and put all your energy into that, because I think sometimes we really do stress ourselves out with, I need to be X, I need to be Y, I need to be Z. Another thing I also will point out that has come to mind is ask for help. Nothing wrong with asking for help. And if help is not available to you, I think this is when showing up for yourself comes back in. I can't do it. I can't, like, that is also a very healthy mindset when it's necessary. I cannot, and I will not. You know? Let's go eat ice cream. You know, but let's not distract, sorry. But there, I think, like you said, we're high performers, and sometimes we get into that place of, but I need to, but I have to, but I must. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying I cannot and I will not. Yay, Sheree!
Thank you so much, Mama. I'd like to know, what does an idle day look like for you? Because in line with what you were just saying, it's very hard for us to be inactive. Yesterday was Friday, and I had a bit of time for myself, especially when it's rainy season, internet is off. You're like, okay, now what am I supposed to do? And your child is in school, and you get antsy. You're like, can I just really sit down here and calm and enjoy my time right now? So what does an idle day look like?
You have to find something that's a routine that takes you out of your norm. And I will use cite the example that Nana said, which was her practice of yoga. It doesn't have to be yoga per se, but she has a personal routine that she builds in when things have to stop. She can't think about work. She can't think about a project she's working on because she has to stop or she'll fall. You know, so I think some of us generally don't have any routine that physically, functionally takes you away and gets you doing something that's not actively maybe brain, mind orientated. So I would suggest that. What is that routine that you're doing? Is it walking? Is it reading? And these things are very simple. And because again our brains work in so many different dimensions, it's hard for you to just pause. And that's the work.
And that's an inner space thing too. And I think that once you are doing the work of clearing out your inner space, I think sometimes that what a lot of us fear is actually sitting down, doing absolutely nothing. Because your inner space will start speaking. And sometimes we don't want to hear that inner voice speak, because sometimes that inner voice comes with trauma. You know, sometimes it comes with trauma, and it's like, what am I going to do about this? But sometimes that's what your soul needs. I mean, your soul is telling you something very specific. So I will say that if you do ever find yourself in a space, find something meditative that clears the space to be able to have a conversation with Sheree. You know what I mean? And I keep coming back to you because I think sketching, I love that answer. It's just such like an unconventional, it's unconventional in the sense of what we consider something that we do for wellness or meditation, but anything that puts you in a place where you're cleared about. You know, when I didn't share the story, but when I hit that wall and I was sick in bed and everybody was having a good time Christmas, one of the things that pulled me out was an art project. My mother gave me some ginger drink that like, I took like 2 shots of it and I just started to, so it's like, this is why I love natural remedies. I just started to sweat and all of a sudden, and I just painted an art piece. It's hanging in my office, that's the art piece. And I remember finishing it and feeling like a weight had lifted off of me. you know? And just having that downtime to finally do things that I never thought myself the time to do, like buying a canvas from acrylics and some random paints and just splashing it on and feel like a weight had lifted. There's a lot of things, and I would say, put yourself into, and I think things that you think you don't have time for, make the time for that. Like the time I taught myself to knit and crochet. Yeah, YouTube is for everybody. But that inner space, make room for that inner space, sit with it. Really, really sit with it. It will tell you exactly, your soul has a way of telling you what it needs.
So I'm in New York.
Hey!
Been down for 5 years, and I'm moving into a new job right now. I have a lot of anxiety, naturally aggressive New Yorker, and it doesn't always serve me well. And I realized that in order to be successful in my new role, I really start to have to deal with emotional temperament and control in a new way. I've dealt with it in other ways that were not very successful. So as a business owner, as somebody who understands like high-performing individuals, but also empathy, I look to the term "good grace." How would you approach that space, dealing with people?
Sounds like it's too, like she had a really good comment about she's transitioning to a new role and she generally is a high energy person and has some anxiety even, and that might translate into the way you interact maybe with people, and you're also going to be and you're going to be in charge of people. And I think that in a situation like that, it's about before you move into this new environment, you have to likely step back and start to assess how am I developing or contributing to the energy that I have now? What are the things? And sometimes I think that a lot of our healing is about our history, right? So if we have a condition that's emotional or physical or mental, what is the history there? Where is it coming from? I would say from my experience, you probably have to go there now and start to really unravel where is that person, who is that person, where is she coming from? And if you can understand her more and get to know her more, you may be able to shift how you move in a new environment. A lot of it is about personal history. That's personal work. Because if you bring that into your new environment, you need to probably do your own personal work before you enter. And
I think it's also important to remember you're not the only one, right? Like, I think sometimes what makes the battle difficult is when you start thinking I must be the only one who feels this crappy all the time and who's not entirely sure if I'm getting it right all the time. We all have insecurities. We all struggle with trauma and pain that call our name sometimes. We all have personal tragedies and personal histories that inform. And we're all a little ashamed sometimes of our not so perfect moments. And so we have to remember that we're not the only ones. We're not this journey, not alone either. And so I know for me, it helps me sometimes when I see the big picture and say, okay, this is kind of standard, and also to borrow the words of Marie Forleo, if anybody's familiar with it, everything is figureoutable. All things are possible, right? We like to answer the worst case scenario, and I think that if you've ever been to every business strategy course will tell you, imagine a worst case scenario and then try to fix it. I don't think that's a terrible idea, but I think it's not good on a mindset and wellness space. I'm developing the thesis, but we'll get there. One day I'll fully really grasp what I'm trying to say, because I think that it amplifies the negative. And I think what question we really need to be asking is the what if. So I've gotten into the space of when people talk about all the ways something can't work. I say, fantastic. We've discussed all the ways it can't work. Now, I would like to discuss all the ways that it can. Because I'm pretty sure that somewhere in there is a solution to this. And that helps me a lot in dealing with anxiety of, I'm going to walk into this room and know I'm going to be disappointed. What if we said, I'm going to walk into this room and in spite of the challenge, we'll find a solution? What if we answered to the opposite? Man, I'm going to get to work and I know that's going to piss me off. What if today was not one of those days? What if today was one of those days where it's not perfect, but it's growth? You know.
And I also think a tip is also in a lot of work environments where different people in those environments, and we all have different energies. But sometimes it's about just identifying what their energy is and trying to balance with it.
Exactly.
So that's what I would say.
Like identifying people's values and giving them grace for it in the moment, because that happens.
Yeah.
That happens, and I can tell just from thinking about it. It's like causing me a little bit of anxiety, but
It's interesting because it's exactly what it is. You have to be able to take a step back from yourself to make room for someone else's personality and whatever ish they're bringing to the table too sometimes. And when you're a bold and aggressive person, or new in a position or role or in a situation that you're free to contribute. That's my concern.
Well, I see you. I just want to take a moment and say I see you, and just definitely empathize with you. And it's a journey, and don't be so hard on yourself. Like, you're not alone. You're not the only person who quote unquote gets it wrong. Right? I see you. I honor your struggle. I honor your journey. So keep it that. Hey. So you have a first. Did you there? Okay. So if there are no more questions, I wanted to just take a moment, say thank you. Of course. Please enjoy your goodie bags. Please give us feedback. It will really help us, develop our master classes and our services a lot better as the future goes on. I should have like a sign off. But since I'm a yoga teacher, I'll just say